During the witch hunt craze of Europe, a small country known as Basque fell victim to the fears of the Catholic Church. Thousands of people were persecuted as witches and were killed. These are the Basque witch trials. On the border of Spain and France is a small area of Basque country. Basque was the site of the Basque witch trials, which were the largest of any witch hunts.
Before the witch hunts occurred, Basque was a peaceful country area but still was rich in beliefs. The people of Basque have many tales of witches and the pagans.
The English word witch comes from the Basque verb itxiraldatu, meaning to transform. Taking the root of the word itch and adding a W, the word witch was created. The word comes from Basque culture and was created because witches were believed to be able to transform and change their shape.
One such witch was the witch Mariurica. Mariurica was the spoiled daughter of a hero of Basque. She envied her older brother, Ivan, because he would inherit the wealth of the family. With one of her servants, she threw her brother over a cliff and told her family he fell. That night, voices filled her head, and her conscience would not be silenced. She then saw the devil slide down the chimney for her. Dying on the spot, she was cursed to live forever as a fireball, only resting in 2 caves in a mountain.
Maria Eurica is just one of the Basque legends, all of which were firmly rooted in the people's culture.
If a person was not pagan in Basque, they were probably a worshipper of Europa. Europa was a pre-Christian goddess that was commonly worshipped throughout Europe.
Though the worship to Europa had decreased greatly, she was still worshipped in Basque at the time before the Great Witch Hunt. This would change as the Spanish Inquisition rose to power.
The Spanish Inquisition was a powerful Catholic political office. Their task was to spread the word of God. When the Inquisition reached Basque, they had some problems. The area was rich with pagans and spiritualists, and the threat of Protestantism was nearby.
The Inquisition built universities to train monks, who would lead the cause to convert or destroy the non-Catholics. Crimes were found against the locals, ranging from bigamy to heresy.
The Inquisition incriminated the enemies of God and would throw them in jail or execute them in public. Anyone who didn't agree with the church was found an enemy.
In 1593, cases were made against 23 people for being heretics, impersonating Inquisition agents, and other crimes. None were accused of witchcraft until 1610, however, when a similar case convicted 11 people as witches. 6 of these 11 were burnt at the stake, while the others had already died in prison.
The Basque witch trials didn't take place until 200 years after the Inquisition was set up. The kingdom of Nacarre, Alva, Guipúzcoa, Biscay, La Rioja, Soria, and the north of Burgos all fell into the territory.
Their visits were at 10-year intervals, in which they would stay for 4 months. The visits weren't just for witches, however. The trip served as a way to control society for the Inquisition.
As soon as they arrived, they would read out loud 8 pages worth of heresies or infidelity in front of the church, so everyone would attend. Afterwards, they would set up a mandatory mass where they would take an oath of loyalty to the Inquisition. This oath meant that you would aid them in the witch hunts.
The heresies the Inquisition listed were being a Jew, a Muslim, a Protestant, possessing or reading forbidden books, disrespecting the Inquisition, or being a witch.
If you admitted freely to your heresy, the Inquisition only made you serve the auto de fe, or a public penance. In this, they wore a sanbenito, a garment that you would wear during your purification. It was later hung in the church to show your innocence. This way, everyone could see who sinned. If you didn't confess, you were cut off from society. More serious cases would be sent to the court, and the suspect would be interrogated on the spot.
The Inquisition came back to Basque in 1609. Pierre de Lencoeur, who had tried 600 and killed around 100 people in Logroño, had scared many to flee to Basque. This migration caused panic within Basque, resulting in the local authorities starting witch trials.
Authorities ended up opening 600 cases, resulting in 100 executions. In the following year, 1610, 11 people were burned and another 20 served auto de fe. It wasn't until 1610 that the Spanish Inquisition sent Alonso Salazar Frias to Basque to aid in the trials.
While Frias was in Basque, over 7,000 cases were opened, with 11,000 pages worth of evidence. 5,000 of these were from Inquisition accusations, 2,000 were from self-accusations, and 1,400 accusations were from small children.
Among the accused were mostly women, but even priests using nominals, or amulets with the name of saints associated with them, were accused as well.
All but 6 of those who were self-accused recanted their statement, for they had been tortured into saying they were guilty.
Even Salazar himself began to doubt the legitimacy of the trials and began to argue with the Suprema, or leaders of the Inquisition, in 1613. A year later, Salazar won the debate, saying there were neither witches nor bewitched until they were written and talked about.
Most researchers went on to say that the brutal burnings were a terrible mistake. They believed witchcraft was a myth and never existed, but because of the rumors at the time, there is no evidence to prove this theory.
Women were usually single or had certain status and influence in society and government, although some men and children were also subject to accusations, as well as priests guilty of healing with nominas, which were amulets with names of saints on them.
One of the more common witch hunting methods was swimming, based on the ancient ordeal by water. In this form of trial, the accused was bound and put into water. If the accused floated, the water, or God's creature, had rejected her, and she was deemed guilty. But if the accused drowned, she was deemed innocent and died a noble death.
Another method to prove someone was a witch was by pricking them all over with a sharp instrument, looking for insensitive spots where the devil had marked them. Some of the more traditional ways of torture were also used to extract confessions and accusations against accomplices.
These more traditional ways included thumb screws, leg vices, scalding lime baths, and a method called the strappado. The strappado was a form of torture where the individual was attached to a pulley system to pull their arms from their sockets.
The Basque witch trials had many long-lasting consequences as well. Being the largest witch hunt of its kind in history, the area of Basque lost thousands of people and hundreds more fled. The witch hunt led to the torture and eventual killing of thousands of women who were presumed, but never proved, to be witches.
The witch trials doubled as a religious act to maintain Catholic orthodoxy by rescuing the church imperiled by the arts of Satan. Due to the majority being pagan in Basque, the trials nearly destroyed the pagan religion. Some of the believers, however, managed to get refuge in nearby countries.
Alonso Salazar y Frias, a Spanish inquisitor, brought an end to it all by questioning there were neither witches nor bewitched until they were talked about and written about in 1610. Salazar concluded that the alleged witches were simply an artifact of witch hunting.
Salazar's conclusion led to the Catholic Church eventually realizing the witch hunts were based on lies. It also showed that the Church could be wrong, which was another step in the loss of the Catholic Church's power in Europe, by providing ammunition for rationalists, pagans, and radical feminists to attack the Church.
In most areas, 80% of the alleged witches were killed were female. Women, being the lower social status than men, were easier to accuse. Women tended to fight with curses instead of steel. Places which were experiencing political or religious unrest, not uncommonly, also had the most intense witch hunts.
With the Reformation having changed the role of community, the tradition of the manorial system and mutual help weakened. The communal tradition of helping widows and children disappeared. Many were in need of charity. The trials allowed for the development of the capitalist mentality of private property and wealth. Guilt felt by not helping could be assuaged by accusing a person of witchcraft.
It is also said that single strong women who had or were perceived to have economic and social independence were starting to threaten the social order. With the witch trials, anyone who did not conform could be accused. As a consequence, women lost the right to own property or conduct any other economic activity, make independent legal contracts, or even in some cases, live alone.
By use of this witch persecution, the Church managed to wipe out dissent, but left in its wake a world socially, politically, and economically changed. Despite the massacre during the witch trials, the people of Basque have lived on and spread their culture with the world.